Hi. Here I wanted to show you how to implement a pretty important option that you might end up needing in your application. There is some kind of workflow that might be scheduled, some kind of events like sending out an email, not automatically, but according to some predefined schedule, like if you want to write down a message to some user or like anyone, and you want to set out the time when you want the mail to go out, and you want to have specific body and subject, and you want email to go out at that specific time. Also, you want to, let's presume you want to have an option to, there is nothing here in the scheduled part, but you want to delete the email that is scheduled to be sent out, not in the history, like in my example, but is scheduled to send out. Actually, let's go ahead and do it. Here we want to send an email now, and new email here, and okay, here now the email is scheduled and I want to delete it, right? Okay, and I want this email not to go out on this specific date and time. Also, just let's imagine you are scheduling emails for 3 or 4 people or like 100 users, or it can be any kind of event that you are scheduling to be implemented in a bulk, like for multiple receivers, for multiple users. Then suddenly you want to stop one of the event from happening or several of the event from happening without influencing others. So how it can be done? We obviously need to use API workflow. That's a very cool option, a very cool feature that Bubble has. Okay, let's go ahead together and I'll show you how it should be done. So this is what we actually need. Here is the backend workflows. This option here. Okay, perhaps some of you don't know how to have it on. You go to settings, you go to API section, and you make sure this square, enable workflow API and back workflows is checked. Then as soon as you have it covered, you will be able to access backend workflows. And that's actually processes, some kind of things that are run not on the front end on your side, but on Bubble side, on server side. And you can schedule events that will be run by your application no matter what. Is it switched on or switched off? Are you having your Bubble application open and running? It doesn't matter, because these events will go ahead with and will be implemented by Bubble at the exact time and date that you're scheduling them on. So we are experimenting on emails, and we have a very important thing that should be done here. First, we create and schedule the email. Let's go together step by step. Here we create new endpoint. Okay, we need to create and schedule email 2. Okay, because I already have one. Here we need very important things to be done. It can be run without authentication, and privacy rules should be ignored. If you don't check those, you may end up, your user may end up not being able to get your email or any event that you're going to schedule for future. And here we need to add some parameters, something that will be stored in Bubble on the server side, the parameters that you're going to send during your workflow. So for the email, first we have to create email for each user to receive it, right? And what's important here, we have to create a receiver And it depends on your database structure. It can be user, it can be admin, it can be anything. I have contact in my database. That's persons who will receive my emails. You can use anyone. And make sure it's not a list. You might think you will need to use a list here, a list of things or in the array, but it's not the case, because what you're going to do is send an email for each and every person, not in bulk, but we need to create an email for every person who is going to receive it. And because if we don't, we won't be able to cancel the scheduled events, to delete this email from one specific person or two specific persons, if we have one email for every user who is going to receive it. Okay, receiver, we also will need email body, it's a text, and we will need subject. It's also text. You can also specify here the sender if you want this parameter to be dynamic, but for now I will leave it like this. Okay, and what are we going to do is create a thing. So we need to create an email, user email. I have it covered already in the database. And here we also forgot to specify the date, right? Because in our email here you will see it, the history. Let's see in the history. No, we can see it here. You can see it in the history. Here, this is the date we need to be stored in the email, to be shown on the email, right? So we need to add it to the parameters. Okay, and here we create body. It will be our body. Sorry, here I have to type it. Here it's our body parameter, and there will be recipient, it's our receiver, and okay, schedule date for the email, and its date. Why I specify all these things? Because here how my database structure looks like. That's a user email thing that I have in my database, and it has body, it has recipient, it has schedule date, subject, and very important field here, ID. Okay, we don't subject, body, schedule, recipient. Okay, that's it for now. Don't specify ID at the moment. Next thing that we've got to do, we have to add this email, just one that created, to the user, to the contact actually, so that we can see it in the list here. We can get access to it. That's to see this person. We have this person has this list of emails, right? That's what we need to do, and we make changes to a thing. We add we change this receiver, the contact, and we add scheduled emails. That's the list in the database that every contact has. It has a field scheduled emails. That is a list of emails. And we add previous step, result of step number 1. Okay, great. Now we covered the creation and changing to the user, but now we have to schedule actually sending an email. And here we have to use this schedule API workflow. But to schedule a workflow, we actually need a workflow to schedule, right? And I already have it here. It's sent in email workflow, but we are going again to create it from scratch. Okay, send email to, and here we need, what do we need? We need actually just the same parameters. Send email to, here. We need a receiver because it's the same actually thing that we are going to be operating on. Receiver, it's a contact, and here we need body, it's a text, and subject is subject. Okay, great. Here and here we already created it, and here we have, so we created just the beginning point or the end point as it's called by Bubble, but actually it's a thing that will trigger an event. Now we have to specify what exactly we are going to trigger. We need to send an email to, and it's receiver email, sender name, that's where you can specify something like current user, first and last name, here goes subject, and here goes body. Great. So now we sending an email, right? Okay, now we can actually schedule this workflow. Schedule a workflow. Again, you might think you will need a list, but you don't. At this moment, you're covering just one person. Just imagine you're operating on one person and you need to schedule this email. On the date, what are you going to use? The date, the one that we specified here, right here. Because you will be setting it on the date that you will add on the front end while creating this email. Here you will be able to specify the date when an email is going to be scheduled to be sent. Receiver, again receiver, and body is the body, and subject is the subject. Okay, great. So we're scheduling here an email, and the very last step that's very important actually to be implemented is to add changes to the created email, that one that we created on step number 1. That's a thing we are going to change. We are changing created email, and that's where we are adding the ID. And the ID will be the result of step number 3, schedule an API workflow. ID is actually email ID, is an ID of the scheduled workflow, the one that's going to be here in the logs. We will see as soon as we schedule an email. It will be the scheduled event will have an ID, and this one, something that we need to capture and push it into the created email. After we schedule, we need to make changes to the created email to push this ID inside, so that we can reference it and delete or just stop cancel event from happening. Okay, and that's it. That's actually it. Now, when we go ahead and create, let's go and make it for all 4 persons. So we put it here, we schedule, let's put it a bit ahead here. Testing email, text, body text. All right, great. And save changes. I'm sorry, it looks like my Bubble app wants to implement some changes, and that's quite obvious because I was working in the editor. It means Bubble needs to refresh. Okay, select all or for emails again, and today 10:40, and subject email body. Awesome. And go ahead, it's scheduled. Now let's see what's happening in the database. All right, and that's our all user emails. Let's refresh. It takes some time. Something wrong with Bubble today. There have been bugs reported. Okay, all user emails. Let's see. That's our 1, 2, 3, 4 emails. They have been created, and see how I pulled their ID inside. Let's go to the logs, scheduler, and show. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4 ID 64, 65, 66, 67. Let's check it out. That's it. 64, 65, 66, 67. That's the emails that we have just created, and we put their IDs. And now let's imagine we want to, now that we see them in the scheduled part, now we want to cancel this one in email. Okay, great. Let's see, the email is still scheduled for this user and this user and this user. Awesome. How about the logs? See, one email has disappeared from the logs, so it's not scheduled anymore, and we actually have deleted this email from the database. Let's check it out. Here, see, 1, 2, 3, 3 left. What if we want to delete all? No, we don't want to do this. We need to delete all. Not history. We don't need history. We need scheduled here. And we want to delete the whole batch. So all emails. Okay, let me first show you how the workflow for deleting the one email actually works. Here we press button cancel one, right? Cancel one event, and here we just pull the email's ID, and here we go. We cancel. That's actually the workflow, custom events, and cancel scheduled API workflow. We just need to find this specific events, this specific email API. All right, and now if we want to cancel all, let's see. Okay, everything is canceled. Check it out. Show, no logs, very well. And how about emails? Is there anything saved? Come on. Here. No, nothing. That's the emails from yesterday. Let's see how this workflow works. Cancel all batch. Here you have to make a search for emails ID that have been created by current user that has this email body, this email schedule date, and this email subject. Okay, and that's it. Happy bubbling!